car batteries for General Motors. That was their battery.
And what happened with that?
Oh, they had to recall every bolt that they made.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, back to 2016. And because they were catching on fire. But General Motors isn't gonna have to pay anything, from what I understand on the settlement. LG is gonna put the bill on that.
Wow.
Who did all the printing for these books? You? You were busy.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had never heard of brownfields before. I had to Google it.
Did you? You know, it's so funny, because I did this. I know there's a couple.
Which server can I connect to here?
Town guest?
Town?
Oh, what,
Yes.
public, right?
There's a town public.
Yeah, connect to that one.
There's a,
The password for public is, town guest 1771.
oh, lowercase?
No, I think the T and the G is capitalized.
Town guest 1771.
Yep. Mhm.
We got
Chris
books.
says that residential.
This was just so, wasn't it?
Oh, they moved us.
Is every time we drive by
They
now,
moved
my
us.
husband is like, that old
Oh,
truck is
man.
so cool.
Where is it?
It's on the corner of
Welcome.
Rockwell and Lake
All
Street.
right.
I think, the name on the book was.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. We have a couple.
It's got two trucks up there, actually.
Yeah, there's two, and then they both.
I don't mind them being up there, but I'll bet you they can't run because I think they're 1940s things or early 50s. And they've
We
been
have a
sitting
couple
there.
on Rockwell.
And I moved into the neighborhood in '75, and they've been there ever since. They haven't moved. So if he can move them,
Yeah, I
By
think
starting-
that was like for like a.
Right.
I have no problem.
No, it was, yeah.
This is an old picture,
pull it
because
up.
they redid, like, they have the painted areas
Oh, right,
where
right,
the
right.
windows are.
Yep, that's true.
But we did that, the town did that, so I like this one better because,
Shows the real deal.
yes,
The town painted the windows?
yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was maybe the person who bought this, like the building. part.
Mm-mm.
That's the other one.
Yep.
We only have 2 brownfields.
That's all we got, that I got started with today. But, you know, I'll tell you, I couldn't find an inventory, and then I was looking from 2004 grant application,
Other trains.
and the ones that were identified in that were
Bring them down there to the
Prospect
children's building.
Street, like, you know, there were, like, the
I got
Winston
another one.
childcare,
That's
there
the
were 2
G scale
homes.
that's up on the wall, where
ones around.
That were identified as that, Chris Kiley's Laurel City Marine, so that was included, so that's 4. Lambert K, 5. Union Pin, 6.
Very fun.
Yeah, Union Pin is bad sidewalk.
At one point, one of you's gonna take this.
But I don't know if it would still be considered, like, there's one building that remains.
Oh, up there, near the top of it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I don't know if that can be torn down. Somebody said they can't be torn down because the pump is in there.
How you doing?
The rotor,
Oh, yeah?
the turbine.
No, because the marina was going to do something with it. They had a concept drawing planned.
Well, I think they should be the first shot at it.
Well, they
You
went
know,
a
if the
different
money's right.
direction.
Are we ready? Is Michael coming?
No, he's not able to attend.
So, we can start?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Call to order. And do roll call. We'll start on that side.
Roy Platt.
Mark Gizzy.
Jen Perga.
Josh Kelly.
Renee Waldron?
John Weirda.
Amanda Hill? Pam Clumby.
I didn't get to join you guys for the community garden walk, but John and I were talking before, and I did go on a nice sunny day to look at the properties, and I wonder what you guys all thought when you did the walk.
There wasn't a quorum, so that's why there were no minutes, because it was more or less a non-meeting, and there were 3 sites that were visited. I have a sense that 2 of them may more or less be off the table, and even visiting the sites may have been premature, Josh, would you say, without...
Yeah,
should
so
we
just
be-
to share with everybody a little bit about our process right now, we have a number of different properties that we have taken as a town through blight, and a number of a number of parcels that the town has received through other means, whether that be foreclosure, tax foreclosure, things of that nature. So right now, I'm going through really parcel by parcel to try and evaluate what's the highest and best possible use for all of those. And I'm not getting down into the nitty-gritty of should this be a community garden or not, but I'm trying to figure out, is this something that the town wants to retain for some reason, or is this something that we should be selling or putting in conservation easement, or whatever the case might be. So there were a couple, it sounds like, and I'm not familiar with the full scope of the properties that you took a look at, but there were at least a couple of properties that you did take a look at that have been earmarked at this point for some type of sale or distribution back out into the community. Whether that be because there's a neighbor who's interested, or whether that be because it's an ideal location for additional housing. I will have a full list for you to review so that you have a better idea of what's available and what's not, but that list is not ready at this time. That's in the works.
I have heard that the people on the corner of Rockwell and, I can't think of the other street, but anyway, on that corner, there's some property on either side of them. They might be interested in buying it.
Yeah, and we do have a number of situations like that where there's a neighbor who has said, you know, there was a blighted house at this property for so long. It's a very dense neighborhood. I'd be happy to purchase the land just to expand my borders and things of that nature. So the Board of Selectmen has to siphon all of that out. But that doesn't mean that it's not the right time to evaluate whether or not the town should have a community garden, and at least a general location. Is it something that we want to have be walkable from the town center? Is it something that, you know, what even is the state of the current community gardens that are further up towards the town's border? Is that something that we want to revitalize? Is that something that you want to see keep going, etc.? So there are a lot of things to consider. I'm just not sure if we're at the level of being able to pick a specific parcel and kind of hit go.
What is the address for the original garden?
It's a good question. What is the address for
Wallens
that?
Hill, did you get a
It
chance
is
to
on
look
Wallens
at
Hill.
it?
I
Okay.
did, yes. It would need revitalization.
Okay. So it's defunct really at this point in time?
No, it's not defunct, it's just, nobody's been there to maintain it. There's giant beds
Okay.
have been created. It's there's an
a
effort
water-
up there.
There's a water tower.
Correct, there's a water tower, I assume being filled by DPW to maintain that garden.
You gotta go like all the way up Onso and then you hang a right, don't you?
Yeah,
Stowe Road or something, or
I've forgotten, it's
I
been a
forgot.
couple of weeks.
Are any of the gardens being used?
I understand that there had been some interest expressed to Jim at Public Works, that somebody came to him wanting to do some work on that garden up there on Waylands. But no, there's nothing but weeds growing there at the moment, so, no.
It definitely would be nice to have something closer to town, just for, some of those residents that maybe don't have, access to kind of being able to get up there all the time.
True enough.
But, and, there's a lot of things to consider, with the accessibility of water and, all sorts of
Correct.
different things that you would need to consider before.
And a champion. John made a good point in our conversation last time we met touring these properties, that this is the kind of, I don't know if this is a if you build it, they will come type situation. I think we need to establish an interest to go farther.
I agree with that, yeah.
Pam, you said that there were, out of the 3 parcels that were reviewed, there were a couple that didn't seem like they were going to work out well, and I know that you and I had a conversation about that. Was there one that you had identified as being more preferable?
The Bridge Street seems like that Michael and I both thought it was good, nice, flat, or, level. I think that,
Is there a number for that parcel?
48,
What's it
48
called?
Bridge Street.
48 Bridge Street, and it's downtown.
Mm-hmm. Is that the one that's set between like 2 houses?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay. Yeah, I went on a sunny day and that didn't have a lot of like sun exposure, per se.
We'd probably have to get it surveyed, and if the trees are ours, they,
Okay.
you can open it up, so.
I was wondering about that too, because there's that one, there's a pretty big house there. It's looks like a multifamily, and it might, cause a lot of shade to be kind of cast on that area. I don't know.
I don't know, I know that there's a subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen looking at 508 Main Street. Do you have any idea of, because the conversation, if they're not really gonna look to develop a plan for, highest and best use of these, maybe it won't be, a town, it might not be really feasible until,
Do you mean developing a plan might not be feasible, or?
no, a community garden until, because we don't want to be, guessing on the wrong properties yet, right? I imagine,
That's true. I would say in no more than a month's time, I can get you an answer as to whether or not 48 Bridge Street at least is the right answer. I'm not going to be able to tell you about all of the different parcels. But like I said, it's my plan to have this list done imminently, and it will be brought to the Board of Selectmen very quickly after that for review so that we can start moving on it. So as long as we're all of one mind, which I guess is the real question, then I'll have an answer for you.
because Bridge Street, say there wasn't a problem with Sunshine, and it looks good, except the only thing that just popped in is the road reconfiguration there. Would they need it for a staging area for when they do that, straighten out that 5-way intersection there? So it might be a conversation with Bart and Jim, before we, identify it as, great and exciting, where there's no other use by a landowner or the Board of Selectmen. It could be Public Works looking to locate equipment there when they go to do it. I know that they were gonna, I think you saw the plans, right? Well, with Bridge Street, I think the final design that they were planning, weren't they gonna make that a dead end there? Was it?
Yes,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. There's gonna be one way.
Near
that's
that
why you're
parcel
looking-
we saw?
So, well, maybe we could just go
Yeah, I'm
back
pretty
up
sure
just a
it's
little
gonna
bit,
be
because
one
we
way.
mentioned establishing interest. So what can we do to see if there is an interest in a community garden in Winston? So should we post something on Facebook or like social media, or like, you know, what
A
are some
survey?
ideas? Yeah, kind of
Short
like.
survey, yeah. And it might be worth exploring as you go through some of these other sustainable Connecticut actions and so on, making sure that before you send a survey out, are there any other questions you want to ask? Because people are going to stop taking surveys if you send out 10 in a row. But if you send out one with 10 questions, that's usually pretty effective.
So where does that usually originate from? Is that a town, like does the town typically do that? An
We could,
individual
yeah,
person
we've set it
does
up before,
that,
we've
or-
used
Yeah, we can set it up as a
Survey
Google
Monkey.
form or
and-
Survey
yeah,
Monkey, yeah. And field that through all the town's social media and the website and so
Okay.
on. Depending on what time, you know, the exact dates that you want to run the survey, it's possible we could also put it in the next town newsletter that goes to every home and has an email blast too, just to try and make sure that we're tapping into as many folks as possible.
Just one thing, because I totally agree with you, Mark, because you don't want to do a lot of work before, to know if people are interested or not. But it seems like this side of Main Street is the one that has the more of the multifamily houses and less of the land. There are a couple lots I've thought about, but they're owned by other people, but there are grants for the state to like buy land or get money for raised beds or all that kind of stuff, but you wouldn't want to put in a lot of work unless you knew. The other,
Well, John, I don't mean to represent your point here, but you talked about it. It seems to me that a garden would flow better if someone was a champion of it,
Right, right.
a user who could keep things straight and assign beds to people and
Yes.
things of that nature, I believe,
Yeah.
was your point.
and the only, with Renee's, your idea of the survey, that some of the people that might really want it the most are people who might not speak English, who live here in like these multifamily homes. So how do you reach them? You know, they have no land, and maybe I mean, in other towns, there's sometimes a lot of interest in minority people who might have had farming in their country, and now they're here, but I don't know how you reach them.
They were having those regular, produce pickup, farm to market, what's it called?
Yeah.
The community, yeah. So some of the volunteers that have been manning that might have a
Know how
sense
to-
of who's showing, where are they coming from, you know, if there's any conversations, you know, you have friendly chit chat.
The food box distribution?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so I volunteer for that, so probably, you know.
And to Jen's point, do you get a sense of whether or not there'd be any interest among those folks coming, or?
Not really, because it's so quick, like we just pretty much just put the boxes in for everyone, you know, as they go through. So there's not really a lot of time for conversation about anything like that. So I'm not really sure.
Okay.
Surveys could be included in the food boxes too, right?
We could do that, we could do that.
That's a good idea. And maybe put them in 2 languages.
Yeah, one on each side.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Who leads, is that Candy that chairs that effort? Like who, you know, to just get the schedule, I mean, it's been with some fair
Actually-
regularity.
Candy stepped away a little bit from it. Katie Vale stepped into the scheduling.
There's one on the 23rd,
Yeah.
This month.
yeah. And I'm not sure how long they're gonna continue. It might be the last one. I don't know if they're gonna continue through the winter, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. I think they're at least continuing through November. I think there's one scheduled for the end of October and then November as well. But I don't think there's anything set beyond that.
So, is that something that, is the commission comfortable if Josh and I kind of work together and Michael to form some type of, it might not even be a survey as much as, you know, hey, you know, just putting it out there, you know, right?
Let us know, right.
what do you call those, RFI, request for interest?
Yeah.
You know, like to see if, you know, shoot an email.
Would it even be something that had like three quick, are you interested in this? Yes. Something, can you give us your phone number, your email, that they would like fill out right there? Because otherwise you're never gonna see these.
Because you might get a lead person that comes from that, you know, like that might be how you get your point person to, that we kind of enlist to, oh, are you good? Would you like to,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, you know, but just to see, you know, if you get 3 or 4,
Is it possible to put it out at the voting booth?
Unfortunately, you can't really run any sort of survey within a certain number of feet. I've done this before.
75.
Right, within so many feet of a voting booth. So it has to be at least 75 feet out from all directions of the door. So it's a little tricky to catch everybody as they're walking in, but it's possible. Somebody would have to spend quite a bit of time out in front of the voting booth that day, but it's doable. Could even get a couple staff volunteers for a little bit.
Because I only thought we were gonna look for information and who might be interested, not make a decision what we're gonna do, so.
Right.
That's not a bad idea, to have like a pop-up tent and some information. Even if there's no concrete plans, just to kind of start to spread the word of what's being considered.
Right, and interest gathering, so.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, let me know if, you know, the survey, you know, in English and Spanish, if that's something really short.
Are
for
you
the
bilingual?
23rd. I'll be there on the 23rd, and I know, like, Katie Neal too is
Oh,
gonna be
okay, I
there,
thought you
so-
meant you could help us with the Spanish.
Oh, no, I
No.
can't, sorry.
I could run it by someone at school.
Yeah.
Okay. Senora Beats. Okay. So, are we? So, I just, well, and only this afternoon, began this spreadsheet, for, the brownfield sites. And this takes the, form of, it's 2.1, and it's, 2.1.1. In your binder, it's all the information that, you know, so I guess to, and Josh, you would know better, to gain silver, status for Sustainable Connecticut, you have to satisfy, one component of each section, each, goal.
Yep.
And there's 13 goals, and number 1 purposely wasn't printed out yet because we don't want to touch that until we've got the other ones, because I think it has a shorter, life.
Yeah.
In turn, you know, so, you know, so once we get close to satisfying one goal from each, from one action item from each goal, then we'll definitely begin to explore one, which is about, equitable community impacts. But so this spreadsheet, you have to, if we were to, for, as far as number 2, thriving local economies, and there's, six action items within that. Every component of that action, every sub-action of that action has to be accomplished to have satisfied action 2. So that's just so that, you know, because I dove into it a little bit. Am I correct so far?
Yes, you
Right.
are.
So, this book is a lot to absorb, and I don't have an update yet for you, but we definitely can have done some of the layman's work, or it can be satisfied and put into their form, you know, with very little effort. But like, so right now, 2.1 was one that was suggested for an agenda item. And so this form here, this Excel, would begin to address 2.1.1. And it looks like there is, you know, sometimes it looks worse than it is, though. 8. So if there's 8 sub-actions within that action, all 8 of those need to be satisfied, and then we could, you know, happily check 2 off as being completed. It looks like a lot, and it's only because we haven't gotten started. Like, you know, I know that once we get humming, you know, we'll get it done.
When it seems
Right?
like
Is that right? I mean, Josh, you've been through this before, and
I have
it looks
twice.
a lot tougher than it is, right?
Totally agreed. Yeah, it is a lot more difficult than it looks. And, you know, once you really start diving into it, it's simple documentation like this that really goes a long way. And make sure that we all have a common point of reference as we go forward with other conversations. It all helps build off each other. It gives us specific tasks to work on during meetings, outside of meetings. So this is a great first step. The document that you have in front of us. I think we just need to continue to list off the different brownfield sites that we have in town.
And I think that I started to say before you got here, that I had looked at I'm not sure that we have a brownfield inventory, but my search hasn't been exhaustive, but what it has been, it was 2004, the town had applied for a grant, and many of those properties identified in the grant application at that time, and that's what, just 17 years ago, have been remedied. So, you know, these are the 2 that just, you know, like I said, I haven't really spent as much time as I will, but start to identify what you consider brownfield sites, and we can get those added. So just shooting me an email if it's like, well, does this qualify as a brownfield site? Like, I'm not sure what goes into it necessarily being when you see it.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, I've never heard this before. What is this? And yeah, underdeveloped or abandoned is the Google definition anyway.
Who owns 10 Bridge Street now?
There's an entity, I have it listed there, 153 LLC, and it's comprised of several community members. But the timing and the undertaking of this, because they're likely to be seeking some assistance and some funding and some general support from the town as they seek to, you know, repurpose that for
Right.
them.
Now, over the years, they've put some, not on this side of the building, but on the uphill in front of the package store, they put windows in the,
There's 2 parcels there, actually. They're both known as 10 Bridge Street. It's a little confusing, and we should correct that someday.
I used to work in those buildings.
Yeah. You know, and yes, so that one has already been done, and that was like in 2015, 2016 that was completed.
But I was thinking on the, where this one is, on the back side of it, there's an old wooden structure that's,
And you're not
Just-
talking about the one that had like a major, you know,
No,
where
that-
the
not
walls
that
were-
one.
Oh, yeah, there was windows
The-
changed on this,
yeah, if you go look at it, you see the architectural windows on this side going down, walking down the driveway. You can't see it from here, in this view. But
oh,
if you-
yeah?
if
I
you
never
were-
noticed.
Yeah,
But
it's,
peop-
from the
unfortunately,
package store, you can see them, see the windows. People are throwing rocks through them over the years. You know, and they're decent windows, but on the end of that, there's a little wooden building that's down, like down in the hole where you would go through. If you, from this side, you'd see it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just dilapidated. If they would take that out, they could probably get some credit. And if they did that on their own and then look for assistance from maybe the town or greenfield grants or brownfield grants from another source.
You know, we don't have capital products included in this either, and I mean, they would, you know, like I said, I really didn't,
And is there more remediation to be done at the Little Red Barn site on Lake Street?
yeah,
Yep.
yep.
Yes. I happened to see 3 people walk out of there right at the end of the first section on Meadow Street, probably about 150 feet from the corner of where Lake Street and Meadow Street start. And last week I saw 3 people come out, 2 guys and a girl, and they were walking, well, it's not boarded up, so, you know, it's easy to just walk in and walk out. And it was about 6:30 or something like that. But-
that is a problem. You're right, it's not secure.
No, that portion is not secured, and he has done some work on it. He's put new frames in for windows, but the windows aren't in. And he's had problems with vandalism when he first started that project, with people throwing rocks through the windows, so he put cameras and lights in there.
Is the Nader building, by the Dairy Queen? I know
Yes. That
they
would be,
remediated the soil between the building and the river, but, I don't know if there's more work to be done, or if they've completed that, or
no, that needs
more?
some love.
Okay.
You know, part of the Sustainable Connecticut, so I mean, we will have to do some community outreach to make sure that, the property owner is okay with being added,
I saw that on,
right? You know, I'm not sure Tiffany Pickett, if, you know, they're gonna welcome the support of being added to this list, you know, but, you know, we'll have to, you know, do a great job in explaining the benefits to being included in this list.
Right. And, you know, so as you said before, Pam, the folks at 10 Bridge Street, the new owners of the parcel that we're referring to, they do want to bring forward a grant application to the Board of Selectmen for a letter of support and as a co-applicant. And there are funds for private entities, just like them, to be able to receive state funding to remediate brownfield sites as long as they have a municipal partnership. So certainly something that we could do, whether it's as a commission or as staff members, is go to them and say, "Hey, we'll partner with you, but you really need to be identified as a brownfield site, and here's the identification." So, you know, kind of pick your path to an extent. But that might help us get a more holistic sense of what's a brownfield site, and maybe even get a little buzz in the community to say, if you want a partnership, come talk to us, come work with us, and we can move things forward a little bit more proactively.
Mm-hmm.
So all good.
the one, sorry, I'm thinking of more brownfields. The one that they store some boats, that's not
Yes.
Chris Kiley, but that
Yes.
old Barrett building.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know
I-
if that count, I know there isn't really a strict definition maybe,
But I hope so, because, you know, and I would think that they would be open to it too. Yeah, but any other building that you can think of that, you know, like 32 Lake Street, you know, of course, let's add them,
that's the pin factory one, or no?
where the brewery is,
Oh, right.
yeah.
There's something behind them too, like on the other side of Meadow or something,
There is that industrial space across the street, but I think it's actually mostly occupied
And they operate.
and operating, and
Yeah.
they might have contamination to deal with.
There's Tom Iflin's place. I hate to use names, but he's got a complex.
Sun
What-
Chief?
Yes. He's got like 7 or 8 or 9 buildings there, and I don't know that they're all occupied. And you know, I'm not sure if that would fall into this, but you know, most people don't refuse money.
And
You
then
know.
there's the one that's on the same side as, Little Red Barn, but behind it, that is also occupied, but not completely, maybe, I forget what it's.
Is that H&O Products?
Yeah.
H&O Products.
So where our next, like, move, like, in terms of, like, are we
So 2.1. I mean,
together to kind of, you know, talk about brainstorm different properties? It seems like that's what we're doing, but I don't know how do you get these, are these just sites that you just
yes.
are thinking about?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's no way of being able to, like,
It's a pretty broad, if you use their definition, it's pretty broad, so remediate and redevelop brownfield sites that are unused or underutilized because of contamination or the perception of contamination.
right,
Yeah.
that could be anything, I would think.
Right, and you know, right.
Well, that's kind of funny regarding Tiffany Pickett, right? Aren't they run out of that building all the time. There's constant circulation of traffic. There's a business going on, right?
A lot of these are being used, but maybe they're not being used as much as they could be.
And I think we only learned that it was being used this very year.
I see. Well, I drive by it on my way to work, I see the
I,
traffic of cars.
we didn't know until, you know, our new assessors.
But wasn't there a conversation that took place regarding an easement for the extension of the trail that would cross that if it came to Winston?
There's a planned conversation.
Gotcha. Nobody will hear from me.
I don't know that the conversation has, you know, and this predates Josh, and I doubt that, you know, in the 6 months you've been here, I don't think we've moved on that at all.
No, I don't think so.
You know, this is part of the greenway where the bike path is getting extended, and, you know, the designs do call for us to gain easements from all of the properties, you know, running from New Street.
Which would include this one,
Correct.
and could it be leveraged to somehow to make them cooperative?
We'll help you with this grant if you can give us an easement across your.
Well, I think yeah, I'm not sure that would be effective.
Who's gonna maintain that?
The Greenway?
Yeah.
It'll be a combination of Public Works and the Recreation Department,
Oh,
but it will be municipal staff.
because I see them down there at Torrance side, they mow it, they plow it,
Yeah.
there's snow blow, whatever.
Yeah, it'll be robust and effective once we have more in on the Winston
Right,
side, but
okay.
until then, we're not doing much.
I did have another question. The old turntable behind the old, what's that factory? that-
Sunchief,
Huh?
behind Sunchief. It's in the
Yeah,
parking lot.
behind Sunshine. Did that ever get cleaned up?
I have no idea.
The turntable?
Yeah.
The blockwork is still there. Turntable's gone, but the blockwork is
Oh,
still
they
there.
took the steel out there.
The steel's gone.
It would be a good cultural site. So what they're talking about is where they would turn the locomotives, and all the stones are still in place, and it's all overgrown, but it's still there.
Yeah.
I don't know where Sunchief is, where is this?
You go down Meadow
Tokyo,
Street,
could we get like a
and it's that big,
aerial?
huge red building that's got beige on it, you can see it from Meadow Street and from Lake Street, and you go up, 263, 263.
Okay.
It's a big giant building, they used to make kitchen appliances in there. It's right now, it's divided into a lot of little there's a organic cotton company in there, there's all kinds of little
Oh, I
companies.
saw that.
There's
Yeah.
a sheet metal shop in there and all kinds of screw
But I think
machines.
Yeah, there's all kinds of
I think
stuff.
they
There's-
own it, right? They own the parking lot, and then by virtue of that, they own the turntable, or no?
I think, yes, he does own that,
Yeah.
yes, because it's all parking lot's all part of his.
Would it help you to get like an aerial view or something of the town, so you can
No,
kind of
we
see
have it.
where?
I'm doing it right now because I can't think
You
of the
can't see
street
it,
that Sunchief is
It's
on.
pretty overgrown, right?
yeah, it's real overgrown.
But we have because,
Cause there may be so many that we're just not even thinking of. Right
but,
now.
you know, our local people will come up with them, you know, like.
But it would be cool to somehow preserve that and make sure it doesn't get.
Well, what about the Silver Star
So
property?
that's 41 Meadow Street, that's what that address is, so that we, which one, or,
The Silver Star, where we tore the buildings down, is now the overflow parking lot?
well, it won't be a it won't be brownfield, because, right? I mean, if the building's not there.
The buildings aren't there, but
Could it still be considered, good question, would it? I don't know, if there's no building to, I mean, would you get money, cause I don't know that we ever did any type of, site assessment, you know, any of those, tier 1, tier 2 studies on it. I don't know if it needs to be, at some point that we should be capping it, you know, cause that's what happens sometimes, that you're supposed to cap them.
This does just say remediate and redevelop brownfield sites that are unused or underutilized. It
Well,
doesn't
there
say
you
it has to be
go.
a building.
You know, that's,
So if you wanted to pave it, you could get money to pave it because you're sealing it off. Is that kind of what you're saying?
yeah, so
or-
that's 3 Meadow.
Because you'd be preventing the chemicals from spreading.
spreading, yeah. Stop the water from going down.
Ideally, I would think that the site assessments have, you know, if people have them already. And that's where you might have, you know, I don't know and don't tell me type.
Right, you don't wanna open up.
Right, like, it's one thing if, you know, if it's identified and they know, but that's what we'll have to look into it, right?
Yeah.
But plugging away at 2.1, you know, in between meetings is something that we should be doing. And then I know you had talked about there wasn't a specific sub-action called out, but now that you've got handy dandy binders, we can kind of, was there one, when that was added, I know Amanda, you and Jen, had conferred on 4 on the agenda, was there a particular one or just that with 4?
Willie chimed in on that one a little bit. Willie, were you?
There was this, I forget which number it is right now, but there was one that was about creating a arts district, which I thought would fit in good on Whiting Street, since the town has the grant to redo Whiting Street, put the sidewalks in, and then you do have the American Mural Project, you have Whiting Mills there, and, I mean, it would be a nice place to just create, I mean, what compromises an art district other than a sign? The declaration from the town, you
Yeah.
already have it in place.
That's actually cool, yeah.
That is cool. Under the whole heading of tourism, cultural assets, and so forth, but off the subject of an art district in particular, something I've been thinking about would be creating a walking tour of Winston to some extent. You know, you had just mentioned, Jen, the fact that the turntable's a cool bit of history that's around, and for anybody who's new to town, they have no idea what that is, or where it is, or what it was, and what
I
it's
don't know
for.
what that is.
Rick Millette and Philip Allen kind of did that, and part of it's probably in their head, but did anybody see those green feet that were painted? They created a tour. and
City
they-
walk.
A city walk,
Yes.
and then they were taking people on it and telling them about so that they've, it's partly done.
Well, that's good. That's good. Something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. I
Yeah.
did one of them in town.
Good. I was thinking if we find a little grant money, it would also be nice at some of those sites to put up some informational, educational signage too. Maybe just, kind
Wayfinding.
of solidify wayfinding, yeah, and codify, and waysides and so on. Codify what maybe they started.
That
with.
is
I think
so
that would
cool.
be a great idea.
Like that milestone on Main Street?
Yeah, sure.
Across from, the brewery. That was one of the things that Phil pointed out.
And what was it from? From the train? or-
From the old road.
Oh, from the road, okay.
Yeah. But I notice it all the time though. You see it.
And maybe we
Yeah,
could get
I've said it.
permission from the, people who own the turntable to put up a sign and clear it up or something like that, or
Right.
I don't know.
Something.
So I say that, just because I don't have intimate knowledge of these quite yet, but I think that idea is terrific. It's already half started. Where does that fall? Like, is it for one, you know, figuring out where it falls and let that be what we
Is it kind of
undertake?
4.1, because it says map tourism and cultural assets? Is that
Yeah, it's kind of a way of taking mapping to a whole new practical level, right?
Yeah, like 4.1 looks pretty easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's gotta fall somewhere under 4.1. By the way, for 4.1 subsection 2, update your profile on CT Visit. Tomorrow I'm going out, and I brought my camera, and I'm gonna take a bunch of pictures of Winston in the fall. So we'll get that all updated with some nice refreshed imagery, so we can check that right off.
So,
I'll
Um,
document all that for you.
kind of go back to that, whose idea was it to put up signage or something
Me.
at some of the points?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm doing this project with a student, for a land trust project, and the student is designing the signs and we're putting them on a trail so that little kids can come and learn about the flora and the fauna. And there are all these students who have these like capstone, right? Do you have that at your school? And so maybe you could find kids at, a student or students at Gilbert and like that, I don't know how you arrange it, but maybe it could be like a project that they would, you know, research a few places and design the little info thing that could, so that they would, you get some buy-in from other parts of the community.
Like a
I don't-
plaque, like they have, like, I think they have them around the Burr Pond Trail or
Yeah.
something, the little.
But so instead of being about flora and fauna, it would be about different parts of Winstead or something, and one kid or different kids could make the little design, you know, the info or the whatever.
Well, I wonder if they could create the information and then maybe as a partnership with the college, they have the graphic design courses. Maybe they could take it and really bring it to life in a new dimension. Sorry about that.
I mean, takes a lot of time to coordinate, but,
Yeah.
but it's just an idea.
Well, that would also help tie in 4.4, not to jump ahead too much, but to include the youth and the arts and culture program.
There you go. Two birds, one stone.
Speaking of signs, not related to this topic, but for parking, there's one on the end of the building. As you're coming east, you'll see it coming down. It's on that end building, the route, I think it is, or whatever it's called now.
Okay.
It used to be an organic, food shop or.
Oh, the health food
The health
store?
food corner.
The health food corner, that's, it's on that building, you can see it when you're coming down, going eastbound on 44. Maybe he would let us stick another sign in there that says EV parking underneath it, and have it an arrow towards it.
That'd be good.
You know,
That's a
and
good
then we
idea.
can always maybe put one on the Bank of America property,
Yep.
on the corner. Because there was a car there today. I go by almost every day I can.
I've been telling people since I found out. They're all shocked.
And that Drake, car was up at, health center too. Charging.
I don't know if the art teacher's still teaching, but does anyone remember when the students designed the banners that were along the street and in the park? It was maybe 5 or 10 years ago? Does anyone remember that?
I think they were like different, like industries, right? Like the artwork was like one, like,
Well, that was related to
The
the
mural
mural
project.
project. yeah.
oh, okay.
There were banners for the mural, that's where my head went, but I barely remember what
Okay.
you're talking about. Didn't students do the artwork on the side of this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The American Mural Project, they do programs there too for kids.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Which kind of fits in with your idea of the arts,
Yeah,
District.
district.
or district.
Yeah.
A lot of, some of the stores even have little maps that like fold out, and they have different points of interest on it. If you walk down Main Street, you'll see this and see this.
That was done by the EDC,
Right.
Economic Development Commission.
There's a
Does
way
that
in.
kind of count for,
Was that recently?
the map,
though?
the tourism and cultural, does that kind of count?
EDC did
for-
maps that they sold advertising on, and they
But
were,
not recently, right?
3 or 4 years ago.
They're right out here on the table, right?
Yeah, there are a couple.
Yeah, but a lot of the buildings haven't changed in 3 or 4 years.
No, but that's another place you could advertise the
Right.
charging stations,
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
you know?
Because once they have your info, you can just update it, those map people.
Okay.
Because I know they did it once and then a few years later, they kind of updated it as the businesses change.
Oh, no, yeah.
I mean, is that kind of what they're asking in 4.1? A a tourism and cultural asset map? Cause it has like little pictures of some of the,
Probably.
I think that would probably cover the map component of it. It might be, well, actually, no, that probably covers the whole thing. I do think it would be nice for us to complete a worksheet that's connected to the map. So that we have a point of reference that can be more easily updated, so that when we go to print these 5 years from now, we can make the needed changes.
yeah, I mean, unfortunately, this one, you had to, this says 2019, so it's been a couple of years. I think that the ads pay for the
Right.
map or something, so it wasn't made by anyone in town, it was like a service or something, I don't know if you wanna.
2019, wow. I don't think EDC was doing that in 2019. Do you?
No, maybe they just
I
reordered.
thought they were behind it.
And this says it's the 3rd edition. I remember, cause they would ask, the land trust, like, do you wanna have a little ad, and we would pay a certain amount.
We'll have to, that's something that we'll, is Linda here?
Does anybody want
That will-
it, or?
I've got one.
Yeah, that's,
Got one upstairs.
that's something that we can see if, they'd be interested in running with that, right, Josh? Cause I mean, I'm not sure that they've done that recently.
Well, like you said, you probably start it in 2018, and then by the time you get all the info and they make it, it's 2019. I mean, it takes a while to,
Yeah, right, cause I mean,
so it could have been like,
those are nice to have. Those are cool for, you know, people coming in from out of town that
Right at the
wanna.
bottom here, it says, Winston Map created in association with the Town of Winchester Economic Development Commission. It was done by Berkshire Maps.
Okay. Well, at least that's good that we know who to contact.
Yeah.
right, cause they have a base, and it's really just a matter of
Yeah,
updating.
yeah.
Are we ready to move on to are we gonna talk more about charging stations? Or,
Yeah, we
Do you
can.
have more you wanna add, John?
On charging stations, what I found out recently, last week, less than a week, is I talked to the manager of Stop and Shop, and she used to be at the one in Canaan. And she says, we are gonna get our Tesla charging stations in, at this Stop and Shop in Winston. The only thing is, she couldn't give me a time frame of when it was gonna start to be completed. She says, as soon as I get a letter, I'll let you know. So, that's where we stand on those. And she says, that's going crazy up there in Canaan. They have Tesla parties.
See what it is.
So does that mean
For-profit things.
a Tesla can park there, but other cars cannot? Is that how that works?
No, you can buy an adapter so you can connect into a Tesla
Okay.
charger.
Okay.
But also the Tesla chargers, correct me if I'm wrong, usually have a couple of Tesla heads and then usually come with also a couple of the Type 2 chargers as well. Is that right?
Okay.
Or would it only be Tesla chargers?
I think, I'm not sure, because I haven't been to Canaan yet, but
Okay, I've seen them mixed and matched, but
Yeah.
maybe it's all just Tesla.
I don't know whether they're all from Tesla or they're from ChargeGo or
Okay.
whoever, because there's several companies that do it, you know.
Right.
And there's, like, to buy a Jeep, you get 3 years of Electrify America charging for free. Where do you see Electrify America around here? We don't have it yet here. But you go to Colorado and Arizona and those places, they're loaded with it. And Colorado's also negotiated a deal with Jeep. They're gonna have level 2 charging stations in every state park in Colorado within the next year and a half, by 2023.
So one idea we had before was, we were gonna try to put together some info that could go in one of those mailers that go out. And, we were gonna sort of have like a group, Google Doc or something. Does anybody remember? We were thinking about doing that.
Yeah.
I set it up for this.
Mentioning it.
Something that you may wanna, not to, I'm checking quick the minutes before, to see.
I
what
just
we-
don't
what
remember
we-
which,
Right.
which one of us was gonna,
Um,
cause John has sent me a few things that could, links that like could go in there.
I think someone was gonna ask the finance department about whether or not there was a method of tracking the use and hours of charging in the stations already currently in town. Ms. Waldron questioned what data was available on density of a community versus the number of recommended electrical vehicle charging stations. You know, like how many stations versus, you know, how many, you know, the population of the town. Something that this commission may want to start to think about for a possible recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission the next time they consider undertaking a change to their zoning regulations is to add language, just throwing it out there, to add a requirement to any newer apartment building. There's a lot of talk about, you know, easing, adding units, so that any new apartment building has to at least include infrastructure for electrical vehicles. Because if it's not required by the zoning regulations, then it's tough for planning and zoning to insist upon it.
And like any big, like, they built that, veterinary building, the college, like, when there's something new that's big like that, it would make sense for them to have one as well,
At
right?
least that it's included in the building plans.
Okay.
You know, that maybe that they don't have to put it in, so, you know, you're not
It has to be
discouraging
ready
development.
to-
Like, planning and
ready.
zoning might resist, you know, with anything that could dampen a developer's interests in our town, but it's not really that far-fetched to make them at least consider it for
Where would it go in the future?
the infrastructure,
or-
show it somewhere that it's feasible, that you don't, you know, just rule it out where, you know, it's like, maybe not adding HVAC to your house, but adding the ductwork. As you're constructing, maybe you're not buying the condenser, you're not putting it in, but at least run the ductwork now, so that,
The subterranean utilities.
yeah. You know, for, that would all have to get weighed out in the discussion, but it's something that, you know, you can consider as a, recommendation. And what are other towns doing in that, you know, definitely bigger, you know, cities are including that as a requirement.
Like, it's in Mark Hampstead, but they're redoing, like, where the cinemas are, like, when you're doing a big remodel, like, you should be having that in, ready or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, that's,
As regulation, which has to be, so your initial point was we should be thinking about proposing it to planning and
Yeah,
zoning as a
yeah.
regulation?
Yes, because, you know, that just would be,
Like, in a
Logical
letter,
flow.
or would we actually go to a meeting, or?
well, you're better off at a meeting, I think.
see all of the above.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
you know, like, yeah.
Okay.
You know, and like look at it, explore it for them, because you know how it is with anything else. If you hand it to them on a plate, they're more likely to chow.
Because that's what I did when they were gonna do the healthcare facility. I went up there and it was happened to be the night that Brian Mattiello was there. He's one of the gurus up in the hospital. And he said he would see when I explained out what I wanted to do. And I came back then, right after they dug ground and started doing some work out in the parking lot area, because that's when you want to get it in, not after the parking lot's done. And he said, well, we'll work on it. And then last December, he called me, he says, I got your Christmas present. It's all in and set up, ready to go.
That's
And they
cool.
were.
It's really cool.
Only two, but two, but
Oh, that's great, though.
Yeah.
It's a start.
And so, you know, just some of the other things were, that we should include a blurb on the town's website and newsletter to help inform the residents that Winsted has this charging station available. So, I think that, Josh, will a winter newsletter, is that our next newsletter, right?
Yes, so my schedule has been, I'm trying to start in the last week of of a given month, so that I can send out, so the next one will be for December. It's going to span December 15th to March 15th in terms of what we're trying to highlight. It's 4 pages, we need to be mindful of space to some extent, but the more we can conserve in each story, the more stories we can have, the more information we can really get out there. So just bear that in mind. But yes, so the next one, I'm going to start writing it in the last week of November, right around Thanksgiving, with the hope of sending it to print around November, somewhere between the 5th and the 10th, so that it's getting to everybody's home by November 15th, which is when we're starting to highlight events and so on. Or sorry, December 15th, so that we can start to highlight all of that for the next 3 months.
I mean, it could be really simple. Our first one could just have a little graphic and just say where they are. I mean, we could start really simple, and then the next one, we could add more information about
Right.
some of the things we've talked about.
Well, and there are some little subliminal things, or the subliminal's not necessarily the right word, but some very small mentions that you can put into some of these articles that I found have gotten some traction. And I can imagine with a little story like this in the newsletter, we could add a line at the bottom that says, "Is your business considering putting in EV stations?
Oh, yeah.
Contact the town." And that way, if somebody is even, ever pondered it, they can reach out and say, "Hey, what's
And then we
what's
give 'em
at our
John's
disposal?"
number.
And then, yeah, we give him John's phone number, and he gets them for him, right?
Well, I don't get them for 'em because there's other state incentives for buying the charging stations.
Yeah, exactly. But we can help connect them with that.
Yeah.
I'd like to credit you, John, with the charging stations we have.
Yeah.
I think you're responsible for the ones the town put at Bank of America. You obviously connected with Brian Mattiello for and now you've contacted Stop and Shop, and we're gonna have 2 new.
I had nobody really pushing against me. Bob and the mayor didn't push against me, so, and Bob, once he knew I was into it, he went and got the ball. I still don't know what they paid for him or how they paid for him.
It all worked out.
No, we could have that in our
Yeah.
little thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep.
But if I can get more, I'm gonna push for him.
I
I've
believe
already
you.
talked to, Mr. Zarello, is it? Zarello up at the bank?
Oh, I know, Northwest Community
Yeah.
Bank, yep.
And he's supposed to get back to me before the end of the month. Cause I've been talking to him, but he's a little hesitant.
Yeah. So there's some follow-up work that we have to do, but we have some ideas, and I'd like to see where, we're not doing anything without getting credit for it, so we'll have to see where we can grab the credit within the Sustainable Connecticut too, where it best suits, and then grab hold of that, and, that gives us direction
Well,
for that.
there was a number of years ago, I don't know if you were, knew about, remember Loretta?
Tremblay?
Yeah,
Yeah?
she was secretary,
Wetlands.
of the energy.
Oh, yeah.
And, there was, were you on that at that time, Willard?
They what?
When Loretta Tremblay was on there? Oh, you came after, she left, okay. But anyway, she went, because we were gonna do a energy feasibility study, because they wanted to go, as a third-party electrical was better than just going with, maybe it was Eversource back then, but anyway. So, I guess they did go with the other alternative, but I don't know for how long a contract it was, whether 1 year or 2 year. But anyway, that's when we found out the biggest energy hog in town is the sewage water plant down here on Route 8 North. But we found out there's over 4,000 meters to read in this town, that the town owns and pays on. And some of them, they don't even pay on, like the 2 lights down here by the skate park. They're just, as a blank price per hours a day, because they're on all night. And I think it's like the old streetlight deal. But, and the streetlights are figured at a new rate now, because they're all LEDs. So, but anyway, she put that together, and that took a lot of energy from her.
Shall we move to the microgrids?
Before we jump to that, I am going to have to leave in just a second. I apologize. I know my attendance at these meetings hasn't been great, but you're all doing a tremendous job, so thank you for that. I did want to let you all know, before I head out, that you will, at the next meeting, have a new commissioner, most likely. The Board of Selectmen is going to be voting. I don't have the name in front of me, but if you're interested, take a look at the agenda when it's released on the town's website tomorrow. All the information will be there in the packet about that new commissioner, and that will round you out to an even 7, which is the max that you can have.
Is that by chance Joe Ulevicus?
Yes, it is. Yep. Thank you for reminding me of that. It was somewhere deep in my brain, but, and beyond that, I wanted to just share with you that, I was looking through, and number 8.3 in the Sustainable CT packet is training of representatives and staff. We did just have, I know some of you were in attendance, a few months back, a training on the Freedom of Information Act. So I will document all of that information and put it together for the application submission, so we can consider that done when I bring it in next time. And my big piece of homework for next time, in addition to a couple of the things that were mentioned today, I'll be working alongside you to help, is 8.2, providing effective community communications. This is something that I've been taking on since I started here with the newsletter, with expanding to, as Pam knows and has been helping me with, Instagram and Twitter and other forms of communication in areas. If I'll start putting that down into paper, show you a draft at the next meeting, and we can keep walking that forward. If anybody else has other things that they're really interested in, where they just want to jump in outside of these commission meetings and work on, let me know if I can help. But I'll leave it at that, and I'll let you start talking about microgrids. Thanks, everybody.
Just, for what, John just said, 7.1 is the track energy use, so maybe if there's a way to get the information that Loretta found, or find out how she got that info, I don't know. Because that's what, looks like 7.1 is asking about, actually, municipal, energy use.
I could swear that in the email that I sent you folks yesterday, I gave you a link to, and if I haven't, I'll check to make sure that I gave it to you.
Okay.
You'll see anything that's like highlighted, or underlined and in a different color font, where you'll see available for comparison. It's a link if you access these documents online, and it gives you examples of other towns. So when Josh is talking about putting, pen to paper, a lot of getting the credit for what we're doing is writing it up in the form prescribed by Sustainable CT folks, just to make sure, they give you templates for a lot of this. Some of it is their own template, some of it is what other towns have done, and they, provide examples. So anyone who, has some free time and you wanna fool with it and access it, those links, I'll make sure that you have that, so you can see what he's talking about, so that we get credit. Like Josh is gonna do the FOI training, and he's gonna put it, in the form that is necessary to get the credit. But like you said, I'll look at 7.1, like I'm taking notes. That, I think that conversation on the microgrids,
I think Michael was gonna,
yeah.
yeah.
He
So
said he was gonna get more information on how buildings in the town area would get roof-mounted solar arrays.
Roof-mounted solar, right?
So we,
Do you think there's an easy way to get the info that John was talking about, the municipal energy use, or do you?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
so,
we'll have it for, it doesn't look like approval of minutes was,
oh,
was added to the agenda, but, what I wanted to ask you folks, like, the other land use boards that I deal with, and, yeah, I guess it's just them, get packages, like get materials ahead of the meeting. Is anyone interested in having advanced materials, before the meeting? In other words, so what it is, any printouts, like the minutes, sometimes, I don't know if you have any trouble opening attachments, but sometimes people get funky windmill, you can't open anything in a PDF form for some people. Just some people's emails don't. So some of these other commissions like the agenda's printed ahead for them, they like minutes printed ahead of, they like their reports ahead of time? Or are you comfortable having it at the meeting?
I'm comfortable having it at the meeting. I don't know how anybody else feels though.
Yeah, the meeting should be good for now, anyway.
Okay, so for, if you wanna wait, you know, I don't know if, like,
So
the
we could
minutes,
just, approve both of them next month?
if you want, yeah, cause I don't know if you had a chance to read, the September 9th minutes.
Not yet.
I read them, but I'll wait until next month so other
Okay.
people can finish.
So, all right, so we'll carry both these minutes and the September 9th minutes on your November,
What's the date for next one?
yeah, let me,
The 11th, I think.
The 11th?
I think so.
So regarding
No, I
putting this
think we-
information in, which you were talking about before, is that something that just Josh can do, like on the forms for the Sustainable Connecticut? Like,
or
is
the
that
form,
anyone?
something that Josh can, yeah, staff will definitely do it, but just if there's something that, you know, you're looking at that you wanna cross off the list, you can do it too, like there's, but we'll do it, you know, there's no problem with documenting. I'm just saying that, like, I'll send you the link if I haven't already, where what I printed here, like, you know, you have to click on each attachment, and then within, you know, those sub-actions, within the sub-action, you know, like 8.3, there's all kinds of links in there that you can click on and review the examples of what other towns have done.
Okay, and then my other question is that, are we looking, like, how far back, I mean, you had mentioned that
3 years.
2019, so it has to be within 3 years
Yes,
that we've addressed
for
that?
most, from what I've read, yes.
Okay,
So like if we've, you know, if we've done something, you know, just, you know, oh, we did that, that's fine. If it was 2 years ago, it'll satisfy it. But if it's much older than that, then no, you gotta
okay.
do it again, or do it somewhere else, or do
Okay.
something similar.
What was that youth study, when was that done?
Oh. That could be done as far back as 2002 to 4. I'm sure Mark Douglas would know, because he would be able to find out if we went to another supplier other than Eversource. Or at least the county one.
Oh, you're talking about suppliers?
Yeah, for, changing energy
Right, cause you gotta do that annually.
That was the
don't you?
genesis of the study, right?
Well, I'm not sure if we did it for 1 year or 2 years. I'm thinking it was 1 year. But I'm not positive. Because there was some areas where you could do things for 2 years. But I know that sewer water plant was the biggest energy hog in town. And if we could ever find a way to get,
To shop the providers,
so, huh?
you shop the providers,
Yeah,
and you
which-
get a reduced.
Right.
Well, I could address that, thought you were about to,
Yeah,
if we could ever find a way. I
Well,
think my company has found a way, and I've started a conversation with my COO, who put me on to our sales manager, and they are prepared for a call from Winston to discuss putting a fuel cell. When I bring it up, I say, is it outrageous for me to think about a little town like Winston having a fuel cell? And he said, there's so many programs and free dollars out there that you just have to get assessed and begin.
So would they have a way to capture the methane and then use that? Is that the idea? From
Yes,
the-
and
from
one of the
waste?
first feedbacks I got from, who's the guy at the?
Mark Douglas, the
Alex,
purchasing director,
I believe.
who?
Alex.
Alex Combs?
His thought was, we don't produce enough methane, and I don't think that's, and I confirmed that that's not a showstopper, because you can mix gas, natural gas, with whatever methane they do have, but it also needs to be known whether they've got a digester or an oxidizer, or they're flashing it off.
So
Yeah.
what are they doing with the methane now?
Correct. That's part of the assessment that would be the fuel cell's first step.
I think Freund's Farm up there, they got the methane digester to power, and they get about a megawatt off of that methane digester.
I see.
So that's, I think it's about 10,000 homes they can power up.
I'm not sure what you mean. The methane
Yeah,
digester
the
can
methane-
power?
Yeah, it has a capacity to do about 1,000 homes,
Okay.
bigger than 100 amps a home. But that may have changed since then. Because the guy that was up there when he was on television was the guy that did Dirty Jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Rowe, that's it. Yeah, he was the one that was doing that show. That was probably, 12 years ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there's, you can do it with green ammonia too.
Do what with green ammonia? Produce electricity?
Yeah, for fuel cells.
I see. As fuel for a fuel cell?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I've been told anyway.
I know that we can capture and do it with VOCs off of auto plant,
Yep.
paint shops, things of that nature.
Right.
But there's a plethora of fuels that can be used, including what's already being generated there.
Yeah.
And that kind of ties into they're the biggest power.
So is that
use.
something like Josh would talk to the people at your company, like to start the conversation or something, or?
Yes, I think I should go and talk to Jim or Alex or Josh should. I'm not sure how to do this, and I'm
I think
very
it's Josh.
aware of a conflict of interest here. But
But they would put it out for an RFQ anyways, you know, they would go, you know, it would be put out, anything
Right.
like that.
so I was hoping to raise that while he was still here, but it
But
didn't happen.
it seems like, you could get a grant to pay for that because you're greening your town and,
Multiple grants
Yeah.
was what I understood.
Yeah, you'd probably be able to get a grant for the engineer and whoever puts the package together.
that's cool.
Because you're gonna need help, you're not gonna do it on your own.
It is very cool, and it has, it's being done all up and down the coast of California, so why can't we?
Mhm.
Do they do it anywhere else in Connecticut, like has any?
Well, I think
progressive
they do it
town?
at Pepperidge Farms with the
Yeah.
rotting food waste.
I think they have a station in Bridgeport too now.
They have a park in Bridgeport.
Okay, they have,
And the New Britain College, CCSU has one. And I think
Stop and Shop
the
has-
mayor there bought one from our competitor, Doosan, for the high school.
UTC has made a lot of the ones in the state too.
That's Doosan now.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, okay. They made the stop, they did the one that Stop and Shop. at the Eastern.
Well, I understood that they did the one for the space shuttle.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that they had a commercial
No, they do, yeah,
version
yeah. Yeah,
until I started seeing the Doosan trucks
Okay.
around.
okay,
But yeah,
Stop and Shop, when they put theirs in, it was the old UTC
yeah.
fuel cell. When it was there in South Windsor. That's been going probably for 15 years now. I don't know when they opened up that store, but.
they sold it. They sold the fuel cell interest to a company called Doosan. It's a South Korean company.
Oh, okay. That's,
Doosan.
yeah.
Say it again?
Doosan, Doosan.
Yeah, I knew they sold, I just didn't know who to.
Okay.
Yes.
Because we used to see the bus running around town in Hartford when I worked down there.
Are we, still working through the agenda, or have we finished up? I just have to be at Gilbert. in a few
Well, we're not
minutes.
gonna talk about the microgrids
Right.
till next week.
Right,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
we're,
So, yeah,
okay.
shall we move to adjourn?
Yes.
Sounds good.
Okay. Take care.
No, it seems like it would be good, like, a good story for the press, but also, I mean, working
yeah.
with a company that's
That's
right up the
local?
road, yeah,
Yes.
I mean,
Although that's happened a bunch before as well. But not for us.
well, it'd be good for Winstead, I guess, to, I
It
don't
would
know.
be